President Trump once again touting lower energy prices. Watch this.
When energy comes down, and it's come down fast, we had an expression, drill, baby, drill. And I drilled, baby, drilled. I tell you, we drill. And last month it was announced we produced more oil and gas than any time in the history of our country by far. And when you do that, everything comes down.
Yeah, that's true. Let's take a look at some of those energy prices right now. We have oil below $60 a barrel. The price of gasoline holding at around $3.07 for a gallon of regular. That's nationwide. But way more than half the population is paying less than $3 a gallon right now. We're learning that the EPA will drastically limit protections for wetlands. EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin joins us now. So you've got this new proposal changing the definition of waters of the United States. Why do we need to reform waterway regulations?
Well, what we saw over the course of the Obama and Biden administrations is that those officials were greatly expanding the amount of waterways that the federal government would have the power to regulate. Now, just because the federal government won't have the power to regulate a waterway on someone's property, it doesn't mean that it's not regulated. It's just that through advancing cooperative federalism, a state, local government takes on that responsibility. The Supreme Court in the Sackett decision weighed in with very clear prescriptive language that we at the Trump EPA are going to follow and we are going to adhere to, and that is going to result in more certainty for America's farmers and ranchers and landowners and other states that don't want to have to go out and hire attorneys and consultants just to tell them whether or not every drop of water on a property is a waterway subject to federal regulation.
Yeah, I've got a tree farm in New York State, and some time ago I was told I had to get an environmental statement, impact statement, if I wanted to move some rocks 3 feet on the side of a very small stream. That environmental impact statement would have cost me a fortune and taken a very long time to do it. Fortunately, the rule kind of changed. But if you can get a new definition of waterways of America, do things like that go away?
Right, and so instead of requiring a federal permit, then, as I was just pointing out, that doesn't mean that it's not going to be regulated. But at the same exact time, you have your private landowners, as you're pointing out with your personal story, that just because there's like any drop of water on your property, people are scratching their heads wondering, is this going to be something requiring a federal permit?
Exactly.
And in so many cases, it doesn't make any sense. And you talk about your expense, and you add it up all across the entire country. The fiscal impact is very large on these families and on these small businesses. And we just want to have a clear, simple definition. We want clean air, land, and water for all Americans. We also don't want agencies to be hoarding more power than what the Supreme Court very clearly described in their Sackett decision. We're going to respect the law of the land as opposed to abusing those powers.
I think you probably remove more regulations than any other agency head in the United States government. I think I'm pretty accurate on that. Am I?
Over the course of 1 year at the Trump EPA, we will do more deregulation than entire federal governments in the past have done across every agency combined across entire presidencies. That's how much deregulation is on our plate right now.
And you've been to all 50 states, no doubt telling them exactly what you've done, correct?
Correct. Yeah, I've now brought the EPA to all 50 states, and the feedback that I get on the ground, it's great to be out of D.C. as much as possible. And I'm hearing from the people who are harmed by, are impacted by our regulations, so that when we're back in D.C. making the decision on what a regulation should look like, we're doing that taking into account all of the great feedback that we've received over the course of the year. It has added all sorts of other dimensions and perspectives so that we can get it right. We're going to do the deregulation. We're going to very proudly take all sorts of efforts to continue protecting our environment, but we are going to view this entire process as an option to choose both protecting the environment and growing the economy. We at the Trump EPA are not going to choose between the two. We choose both.
Okay. Lee Zeldin, EPA Administrator, we thank you very much for being on the show this morning. Always appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
You got it. Thank you.